How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the live stream. If you got any questions about politics, let me know in the chat. I am here and available to answer all of your questions about politics. So if you got any questions about politics, just let me know in the chat. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you're first starting to learn about it, so I do not make people feel silly or ashamed or stupid for not knowing things about politics. I am just here to answer all of your good faith questions about politics. There's no such thing as a dumb question. You will not get ridiculed. You will not get roasted. You will not get debated. I am just here to answer all of your questions. I was very intimidated when I first started learning about politics. And, there were a couple of times when people asked me questions or when I asked people questions and they responded as though I was dumb for asking that question. I did not care for the way that that felt. So now I make myself available to answer people's questions about politics, and there's no judgment. There's no roasting. There's no debating. I don't care who you voted for. I don't care if you didn't vote. I don't care if you are further to the left than me or further to the right than me. I'm not here to yell at you or own you or debate you or make fun of you. I am just here to answer all good faith questions about politics. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it. It can be like trying to learn a new language because there's so many just like people that we just refer to them by their last name or by their title, and so many three-letter agencies that people don't know necessarily the abbreviations for. Like, what do people mean when they say the NLRB? What do people mean when they say the FEC? Stuff like that. So yeah, there's no such thing as a dumb question. I am just here to answer all of your good faith questions about politics. No judgments, no roasting, no debating whatsoever. I am just here to answer your questions. So just let me know when you got a question in the chat, and I will do my best to give you a great answer. There's no such thing as a dumb question. You don't got to worry about getting roasted or debated or judged or anything like that. There was a time when I didn't know anything about politics, and I had a really hard time getting my footing at figuring out like what everything meant and like what the main issues were and who the players were and what the different political parties, what they stood for. And, now that I have a good handle on that and I see people who don't, I like to make myself available for people to figure that stuff out. Let's see here. Sharon Hopped 247 says, people are angry because there's a new sheriff in town. What's with the Democrats? Well, Sharon, people are not angry because there's a new sheriff in town. They're upset with what the sheriff is doing. We are watching the sheriff trample on people's civil rights, create humanitarian nightmares, ruin the economy, just like a whole bunch of, and lie to our faces, making us less safe, fucking with our pocketbooks. The list is endless of things that the Trump administration is doing that should be making everybody mad and terrified, Sharon. So, I know that it seems like you're more of a right-wing person. I just hope that you would be open to hearing this new information. Let's see here. Apostrophe says, how old are you? 46. Actually just turned 46 on Saturday. Let's see here. Andy Treadway said, should read Ask Me My Liberal Opinion. But that's not what the show is. The show is Ask Me Anything About Politics. Empresso Nico says, do you think the current state of the government is the worst it's been in terms of vulnerability? I think that's probably a pretty fair thing to say. My political expertise kind of ends around the Reagan administration. So I think that between, Nixon and now, this is probably the most porous that our government has ever been, the most corrupt our government has ever been, the most vulnerable to foreign influence that our government has ever been. But yeah, as far as like the history of America, there are probably, I don't know, that I'm a little bit less, clear on. Justin says, can you define civil rights? I can't give you the textbook definition of civil rights, but civil rights is basically, are you as free to go to a restaurant as anybody else? Are you as free to rent an apartment in this area as anybody else? Do you have the same voting rights as everybody else? Are you able to get married as everybody else? Things like that. Dan Cronin says, how will our country go forward and continue to exist if we can't agree on facts? I think that the people, like me and you, have to do the work of ripping people out of their propaganda narrative fucking nightmare circles or bubbles, So making sure that people don't get their information off of social media, talking to people in real life, having real conversations, doing the work of persuading people, which, consists of doing a lot of listening and meeting people where they are and trying to find the points that you can agree on. Recognizing that the reason why we're so divided now is by design. There are people who want us to fight amongst ourselves because it would be easier for them to fuck us all over if we're not paying attention to them. Hostile foreign nations like Russia are trying to get us to fight amongst ourselves because then we are less united and easier to be manipulated by them and, destroy the fabric of the country, shit like that. It's the Rocketeer. Typical woke lefty only goes back to Reagan. Well, I'm slowly going back and learning all the American history that I was supposed to learn in high school. Patrick Schultz says, good afternoon, Janet. Oh, a little bit of roast there. Hope you're having an amazing fucking day. I do have another question for you today. Imagine that another day. What are your thoughts on Donald Trump's latest executive order on voter reform? Everything that the Republican Party does regarding voting reform is basically just voter suppression. The executive order is going to be challenged in the courts because, again, Donald Trump is just signing executive orders over authority that he does not necessarily have. For example, closing the Department of Education, removing birthright citizenship. Like, all of these are going to be fights in the courts as to what can actually be accomplished. He said something to the effect of, like, everybody who wants to register to vote has to prove they're a citizen first, which is completely unnecessary because all that information gets checked and double-checked and triple-checked as it is happening. And it's just going to make it harder for people to vote, and that's what they want. They want fewer people to be able to vote. They want fewer poor people to be able to vote. They want fewer people from marginalized communities to be able to vote. They want fewer women to be able to vote. And so while they are on while we are on the slippery slope of having them actually change the laws to say bluntly things like black people can't vote, poor people can't vote, women can't vote, they will do these things that just make it harder for those groups of people to vote in the name of election security, which again is complete and utter bullshit because, voter fraud happens at such a small rate that it is basically non-existent. The people that are guilty of voter fraud tend to be Republican more than others. And it's voter suppression tactics. And, what they're going to get away with is what they get away with. We just are all going to have to do extra work to help people to be able to vote, whether that means helping people raise the money to get an ID, helping people to find and, maintain whatever documentation that they need, helping people in polling lines where they close down polling locations in Democratic areas so that their lines are like 5 hours long to vote. And, where it's legal, because some of these states have made it illegal to give people water who are waiting online to vote. It doesn't really seem like that has anything to do with voter security. It just seems like it has to do with making voting harder to do. We just got to help people. And we got to be vigilant also. Part of the reason why the Republicans and the billionaires like to make us desperate is so that we don't have time to make sure that we have all of our necessary documentation, or if they purge us illegally from the voter rolls, we're going to be too busy to check. We're going to be too busy to see. And, once we cast our vote and they decide that our vote doesn't count because our signatures didn't match enough, then, we're going to be too busy to check the website and see, like, oh shit, they never counted my vote, stuff like that. We just got to help. Let's see here. Uncle Deadly says, seems like you're kind of making things up. Well, I'm not. You can Google everything I'm saying. Meg says, we always signed up voters at the UAW at every event we did. That's great. I encourage that. Voter outreach and, helping people to vote as opposed to suppressing the vote. Knuckles has a question. He says, I got one question, bruh. Can we chat? You can either put it in the chat here or you can email me through my website, jaredbernstein.com. My DMs are open. I have a Discord server. Like, there are a lot of ways you can get a question to me. Johnny V says, do you know anything about politics? I know a lot about politics. James Long says, Dems is the party of the rich. They have 64% of all billionaires. That is a lie, James Long. I don't know if you are lying or if you just herd misinformation that you are now currently spreading, but that is not the case. There are some billionaires who donate and try to help elect Democrats, but it is not the majority whatsoever. Additionally, they do so out of a sense of moral obligation because the Democratic platform is anti-billionaire at its core. It is about taxing billionaires and regulating their businesses and giving workers more rights. Contrast that with the Republican platform and how much billionaire money they take in. 75% of all billionaire donations in 2024 went to Republican candidates. And the reason why they do that is because it's in their best interest to elect Republicans, because Republicans like to cut taxes for the top 1% exclusively, which puts more money in their pocket. And additionally, they cut regulations for their businesses, which means that they can pollute our air and our water, and they don't have to have such as rigorous safety regulations. And that saves them all money, even though it hurts the rest of us. So yeah, it doesn't really make sense to say that Democrats are the party of billionaires when, number one, they don't get as much money from billionaires as Republicans do. Number two, their platform is for getting money out of politics, meaning that it would be harder for billionaires to influence elections if Democrats got their way. And then third, of course, the Republican platform is basically just a wish list for all billionaires. So, there you go. User FAFO says, that's funny because you all have the most billionaire supporters. Again, that's a fucking lie. It's not, here's the thing. It's such a lie that you don't even have to look it up. Like, if you just look at the motivations behind billionaires, like wanting to keep as much of their money as possible, wanting to accumulate more money, it just makes sense that they would like the Republican platform more than the Democratic platform, And then, but also, if you do even a little bit of digging into this, you will see that Republicans get a lot more billionaire money than Democrats do. All right, checking up on Twitch and YouTube. If only my civ and government's teacher was engaging as anyone on TikTok. Yeah, I agree with that. It's the Rocketeer. Dan Russell says Dems are the ones wasting money and setting up all this corporations and kickbacks. No, Dan, you're not asking questions, and also nothing you have said is true. So you're out of here. Alrighty. Okay, Batman says, oh, look, the election stealing crowd is accusing conservatives of trying to steal elections. Batman, first of all, how dare you? You do not get to have that name if you're a bunch. I mean, it kind of tracks, actually, that you are a shill for the billionaire class and that your name is Batman. Maybe Bruce Wayne would have done a lot more good if he just, donated all of his money instead of setting up a fucking Batcave. But yeah, what you just said was not true. Democrats don't steal elections. There has never been any substantive evidence that Democrats have done any electioneering, whereas there is a ton of evidence that Republicans do. David says, thoughts on Marjorie Taylor Greene telling that reporter to go back to her home country? She's an idiot. The things that she's doing don't track at all. She's just, an angry, vindictive, pathetic, and embarrassing human being who, tries to make herself seem like the victim in every situation, tries to make it seem like she's fighting, the good fight for her constituents when she's just fighting fucking windmills, She's fucking Don Quixote without any of the charm. Let's see here. TWD Negan says, do you think Trump would have kicked his immigrant parents out of the USA? No, he doesn't really give a shit about immigrants. He only cares about poor people and brown people not coming to this country. And so he hasn't actually done anything to curb illegal immigration. He's actually increased illegal immigration because what he's done is he's made legal immigration harder unless you are a rich person. And so when you do that, all these people who are like in the middle of the process of coming the right way, the way that people on the right always complain, like, we just want them to come the right way. Well, Trump has made it almost impossible to come the right way, which means that they're going, if they want to come to America, if they're worried about their children's safety or shit like that, then they're going to have to come illegally, and they're going to have to give money to coyotes, and all of this stuff, gives more power to the cartels. The Trump administration is effectively giving more power to cartels and terrorist organizations. So, there you go, guys. Congratulations. I hope you're happy about your vote. Ethan Siegel says, Israel or Palestine? I am for the citizens of both of those countries and against the governing bodies of both of those countries. Cheese says, all the richest people alive except one endorsed Democrats last election. That is a lie, Cheese. It is possible, first of all, that more billionaires publicly endorsed Democrats than billionaires publicly endorsed Republicans. But that does not matter. What matters is where they put their money. And again, 75% of all billionaire donations in 2024 went to Republican candidates. And again, Republicans thank the billionaires for their money by cutting their taxes and cutting regulations for their companies. Again, y'all are lying. Cheese, 3-1 funding went to Democrats. That is either a lie or you were misinformed. Megs, they are putting good paying union jobs and moving them to states that are right to work states. I did not read that, Megs, but that also tracks. They're taking union jobs and putting them into states that have specifically anti-union laws. Seems like some real Republican bullshit to me. Empress Nico says, why are Democrats called liberals when it's not associated with the Libertarian Party? I think it has to do with this idea of liberté, like live and let live. Everybody gets to kind of do whatever they want. Whereas the Conservative Party used to be the party of don't live like that, live like this. I mean, they kind of are still, you have to be the kind of person who has this many kids, and you have to be in a straight relationship, and you have to go to this church, and you have to vote this way. Otherwise, you don't count. You're not an American. Weston says, should the Niners be, that is not a question about politics. Cowda says, people who vote Democrat and Republican just because it's red or blue are dumb. I disagree with that, Cowda, because the parties do represent different ideologies. The Republican Party is about making abortion illegal. It is about having really strict immigration laws. It is about disenfranchising marginalized groups of people. It is about cutting taxes for the billionaire class and cutting regulations that protect us from having poison in our food and our air and our water. It is about making sure that there are more guns available to people and stronger, better, faster, more deadly guns available to people. Let's see here. Yeah, stuff like that. Whereas the Democratic platform is more about protecting the environment and protecting civil rights and protecting unions and protecting our kids from getting shot in schools and stuff like that. So if you're telling me that somebody only votes Republican because they care about the issues that Republicans care about versus somebody only votes Democrat because they care about the issues that only Democrats care about, I don't find that dumb at all. That tracks for me. Let's see here. James Long says, R.I.P. Dems. Okay. Let's see here. Gonna go ahead and block you because, again, that's not a question. I don't care if you have different opinions than me, but actually ask a question. Let's see here. Ooh, interesting. Leftist Batman. The new book, Absolute Batman, is literally about a working man, union card-holding Bruce Wayne fighting fascists. I like that. It's the Rocketeer. I'm about that. Let's see here. I ain't even ever been the problem. Says, I prefer a wider wealth gap, actually. Well, that's the reason why you should vote for Republican, because Republicans aren't about solving income inequality. Lexi F says, who's your favorite modern day president? I'd probably have to be between Obama and Biden. It's a pretty close game. I think they both did good things. I think they both did bad things. I think that Biden was helped by the fact that he was a white man and was able to get certain things done, but he also only had one term. So they have very comparable, lists of accomplishments based on who they were and what eras they were president during and, how long they were able to rule for. Let's see here. Jeets says Obama or Biden. Yeah, I don't know why you guys think that's funny. They were both great presidents. Alberto Esculio says, those statements sound like a statement from the 70s and not today's Democrats or Republicans. I mean, I don't understand what you mean. I follow politics pretty regularly, and so I can tell you based on outcomes, based on the platform, based on the things they try to do, based on things they try to stop doing, that is what the two parties are. But if you want to get more into it, I'm happy to do that, Hiram Wendling says, under Trump, his first term, we had the best economy since Reagan. Yeah, that was the trailing effects of the Obama economy. But once 2020 rolled around, do you guys remember what happened? We had increased violence, increased unemployment, the stock market crashed. We were all trapped in our homes because the Trump administration, like a bunch of idiots, did not do anything to mitigate the COVID pandemic. Yeah, that's when we saw the effect of Trump's policies, was in the years 2020 through 2022, or I would say. Let's say here, Angel Fan News says, Joe ruined everything and Obama put kids in cages and had the slowest growth since the Great Depression. That is not true, Angel Fan. If you want me to get into it, I will, but I suspect that you are not here in good faith. I believe that you are just here to spread right-wing propaganda in my channel. Let's see here. Jandomatic says, how do you feel about the current state of due process clause? I'm extremely worried about it. They're just shipping people off to a fucking El Salvadorian supermax concentration camp without any due process. They're telling us that these people are gang members and giving exactly zero evidence of that. It's a fucking nightmare. They're just disappearing people for saying shit that they don't agree with, which is the definition of anti-First Amendment. So all these fucking assholes who were yelling and screaming their heads off about First Amendment this and First Amendment that, I'm looking at you, Joe Rogan. I'm looking at you, fucking Andrew Schultz. I'm looking at you, fucking any comedian out there who was yelling and screaming about the First Amendment because they were upset they couldn't say the N-word on stage anymore. Yeah, this is the First Amendment shit that you should be worried about. That people are just saying things that the government disagrees with, and then they're being fucking teleported into a fucking prison camp run by a brutal dictator. Alrighty. Subtle Psycho says, Trump proved the Constitution is nothing but suggestions. I mean, it's the same thing as everything, where you have to have people that are willing to enforce those things. And if the Republican Party is just going to do whatever Daddy Trump tells them to do and not actually do their job of upholding the fucking Constitution, then yeah, the Constitution is just ideas. But if you have people in those jobs who take that oath seriously, then no, the Constitution is a real fucking thing that has teeth and consequences for going against it. Bailey M. Decker says, why has Trump gotten away with so much shit? When is enough enough? So there are entire books written about why Trump is quote unquote getting away with what he's getting away with. It is a host of mitigating factors and, motivations where Republicans want to win elections and they see Trump as being a way to do that. He refuses to apologize for anything and instead just keeps on doubling down and lying and lying and lying. And where before we had institutions that were prepared to handle that sort of thing, a monoculture, healthy local news agencies, not as much right-wing propaganda on social media, like all of these things make it easy for him to get away with this. And he has been painted over decades as being this successful businessman. He had an entire reality show that was edited in a way to make it seem like he was some sort of business genius. His brain was pickled the exact same way that the people that vote for him's brains are pickled, so he's literally speaking their language. There's a lot of reasons why. The Republican Party is completely fucking spineless. They have exactly zero moral foundation to what they do, and so they see him as a valuable tool for, sitting extremely conservative judges and cutting taxes for the top 1% and deregulating businesses and dismantling the government. Those are all the things that they want. And so even if it goes against their principles, even if he is, spitting in their wives' faces and shitting on their dad's graves, they're like, well, we're getting our judges and our tax cuts, and that's all we really fucking want, So, yeah, you all got to start voting for people with actual, principles instead of just, whoever has the, the Republican, the R letter next to their name in the ballots. Lace says, keep doing what you're doing, keep fighting. Thank you, Lace, I appreciate that. Not knowing who says liberals crying makes my day. Well, sorry, I'm not crying right now, so sorry I have not made your day. Let's see here. Voodoo Witch says, what do you think of committee meeting on hiring someone new against Trump and Musk and SSD? I'm not really sure what you're talking about there, Voodoo Witch. What do you think about committee hearing on hiring someone new against Trump and Musk and SSD? Yeah, I haven't heard anything about that. I'm not really sure what you are referring to. If you just spam the comments, I'm going to block you. I don't care if you have different opinions than me, but actually ask a question. Alrighty, let's see here. EMAC says, did Tulsi Gabbard and John Ratcliffe commit perjury earlier this week? I don't know. There are some people who say yes. I was watching some of the testimony, and some of the people were saying, you said that you didn't recall, and now you're saying that you did recall. What the hell? Stuff like that. I don't know. I don't know. It seems like splitting hairs to me when there are things that are so much more blatantly wrong that the Trump administration and his acolytes are doing. It seems kind of silly to argue about that, but I don't know. I'm open to arguments on either side. I have not come up with my own, definitive opinion on that. Kay today says, but is there a way but is there not a way to uninstall this regime? There 100% is, okay, and I'll tell you how if you stick around. Mike Oxlong says, how do you feel about communism, friend? I think communism is totally valid. We have never seen a fully communist nation the same way that we've never seen a fully socialist nation, the same way that we've never seen a fully capitalist nation. I think that these systems all kind of work together. I know that there is great value to socialist precepts like the post office and the fire department and paving our roads with tax dollars. I think there is great value to having employee-owned companies. They tend to do really well, and there's probably validity to the capitalism model as well. Though I think it is difficult to see now as we were living in a sort of like late-stage capitalist nightmare. Let's see here. I'm definitely going to get to your questions, Kay, about how to uninstall this regime. Voodoo Witch says, hiring some guy on special meeting and who should be let go on defense. Yeah, Voodoo Witch, I want to answer this question so bad, but it seems like you're asking a couple different things. I know you have a character limit on your question, but yeah, maybe you can simplify it a little bit because, again, I'm not 100% sure what you're asking here. All right, scrolling down to the very bottom, Ian Lindsay says, human nature conflicts communism. It could never work. That's not true, Ian Lindsay. There are a lot of companies that are employee-owned that are doing just great. Jackson says, who should be the Democratic nominee in 2028? I get asked this question every day, Jackson, and I always punt it because I'm not here to wishcast 2028. People are going to vote whoever they want to vote for in the primary. I encourage the primary to happen, but I'm really focused on the elections that are coming up. We got special elections happening on April 1st, 2 in Florida, one in Wisconsin, and 1 in New York. And if you live in those places, you should do the work to elect better people into those positions. Elon Musk is trying to buy a state Supreme Court seat in Wisconsin. Tell him fuck you and vote for the other state Supreme Court nominee, and then vote for Democrats in the 2 special elections in Florida and the 1 in New York. Because again, we need a check on this administration where Republicans are not doing their fucking job of being a balance of power against the Trump administration. Like, that's what you're supposed to do there, not just fucking give him a tongue bath every day about how great of a fucking job he's doing and just say yes to everything he's saying, even if it's you know, like, I'm gonna stab you in the neck. Okay, cool, yes, thank you so much, I really appreciate that. Angel Fan News says Dems moved there so they are not going to ruin it with their ideology. Angel Fan, I'm done with you not asking questions, all right? You're not asking questions. You're out of here. Let's see here. Silas says, I'm MAGA. However, my history teacher told me that elections used to be about who's better. Now it's worse. I'm not really sure what your history teacher means by that. I think it's interesting, but I'd want to hear more about that. But Silas, why are you MAGA? I would love to ask you that. Lever2K says, will there be consequences for the leak? If so, what will it be? So I'm not sure if there will be consequences. Trump has no problem throwing people under the bus. I am confident that he doesn't really give a shit about firing one or all of those people and just getting new fucking sycophantic idiots in those positions. But I also think that Trump wants to see what he can get away with, you know? So every time he goes out there and he blatantly lies about something that's happened, anytime he goes out there and says that, the text messages were perfect, Signal's totally safe, also it didn't even happen, also the reporter hacked in there, so it's not even their fault, also there was no confidential information on there, also the reporter should go to jail because he was hacking confidential information, contradicting himself and lying 24/7. He just wants to see if he can do that to the point where he doesn't even have to fire anybody. You know, I would say if you want to put money on it, I would say that they'll probably get rid of like one person. But honestly, it is such an unbelievably massive fuck up and also evidence that they are purposefully hiding information from us, the American people. That, you know, there's that transparency that you guys fucking wanted. These guys are using Signal so that their fucking messages get disappeared instead of going to the fucking presidential records where they're supposed to go. So yeah, they should all be fucking fired. Let's see here. Scrolling down to the bottom says, Too Tall Trees says, shouldn't that still be? I don't know what that is a question to. Gage F says, in the screenshot, it shows Waltz adding him into the chat. Yeah. Camel Tosis says, confirm my knowledge, USPS can't be touched unless an act of Congress passes that issue. I want to confirm, but I'm only like half confident that that is true. Camel Tosis. I'm like mostly confident. I'm like 65% confident that that is true. Future Baller says, may I come in to ask a question? No, I don't invite people onto my lives. If you want to ask a question, do it in the chat, or my DMs are open, or you can email me through my websites. Mars says Republicans are not MAGA. MAGA is a whole other level of insanity. I mean, the Republican Party has become all MAGA. They have purged everybody who is not MAGA from the party. There's only Collins and Murkowski are the only ones that are even a little bit less MAGA than the people that have been exorcised from the party. Jackson says, do you think Israel has too much influence? I do. And I also think that money has too much influence. And the fact of the matter is, like, AIPAC is an extremely well-funded organization. So regardless of if they were, associated with Israel or not, they have a lot of money. So they have a lot of influence. I think we should remove all of the influence of money from our politics. User a bunch of numbers says, are we in a dictatorship? We are not fully in a dictatorship, but we are close. Subtle Psycho says, careful what you say about Israel might disappear to Louisiana. Yeah, it's a danger. My wife and I have definitely talked about the risks of me doing these live streams, but I'm hoping that I am just unpopular enough to get away with it. Jerry Atlanta, Georgia says, why is Kash Patel a bad person? So he's a liar. He's a con man. He has falsified official documents to make himself look better. He is not upholding the rule of law. He is just going to do whatever Trump says for him to do. That's not what that person in that position is supposed to do. Ideally, these people are supposed to do the job of their agencies. The person who's in charge of the Environmental Protection Agency is supposed to protect the environment, not completely dissolve the EPA, because that's what Trump wants him to do. The person in charge of the IRS is supposed to go out there and, collect taxes from everybody, including billionaires, not what the Trump administration is doing, which is dismantling the IRS so that only poor people can get audited. What was I saying? Kash Patel's a bad person because he is not there to uphold the rule of law or to run the FBI. He is just trying to turn the FBI into the fucking SS for Donald Trump. That's why he's a bad person. I'm sure there's other stuff. I'm not fully aware of his biography. All right, let's see here. Postal worker here. It does take an act of Congress, but our PMG just invited Doge in the door. That is terrifying, MP Beamer. I don't know who pinned this, but it's really cool that is a thing. Did one of my moderators pin that? Because that's cool. I wonder if that's a thing that you pay for or what. That is interesting. Chuck Isberry says, are we planning to fire Trump yet? I was ready to fire Trump. I've been ready to fire Trump for the last 10 years. Random Account says, I'm an incoming college student and I'm afraid of what is going to happen to my student aid. Random Account, I think that is a completely valid fear to have. I think you 100% should be worried about that. Silas says, neither parties care about the middle class. Dems just lie saying they will help even though they don't. Two things about that, Silas. Number one, even if the Democrats are lying about that, why would you vote for Republicans who aren't even lying about that, who are telling you to your face, I am going to raise your taxes and lower taxes for the billionaire class? At least vote for the party that is lying correctly. That's number one. Number two is they do take care of the middle class. I can list you a dozen things that happened during both the Obama administrations and the Biden administrations that were specifically for workers, the middle class, poor people, marginalized communities, the 99% of us, as opposed to what Republicans are doing. So don't paint both parties with the same paintbrush because it's not fucking true, man. It is a fucking lie. Their platforms are different. Their politicians are different. The outcomes in the states where they rule is different. The outcomes for the country are different. So yeah, miss me with that both sides bullshit. User Tony says, how can Trump get impeached? We would need to vote in more Democrats. We would need to take over the House, and we would need, I think, 67 Democratic senators, 2/3 of the House. To impeach Trump, all you need is a simple majority in the House. But in order to remove him from office, the Senate would have to, I don't know what they call it, like confirm the impeachment or something. Donald Trump was impeached twice. Bill Clinton was impeached once. But neither of them were removed from office because the Senate did not reach a 2/3 majority to remove them from office. So can we do that? Can we get 67 Democratic senators and can we take back the House? We can, but there's varying levels of difficulty there. The House it's probably likely that we take back the House in the midterms. I think that everybody should be working their ass off to elect Democrats into those House seats, specifically the 3 special elections that are coming up. Some of these are in red districts. Some of these are in districts that Trump won by like massive margins. That doesn't mean it's impossible. It just means it's going to be a little bit harder. But hey, guys, maybe if we'd all done this work before 2024, we wouldn't have to be doing all this extra work now. So yeah, do the work of winning those special elections and do the work of winning back the House in 2024. The Senate is a different story. The Senate is going to be much, much, much harder to get to 67. Some people think we can't even get a simple majority back in the Senate in 2026, just based on the way that the Senate map looks. The Senate map is more advantageous for the Republican Party than the Democratic Party. It is way easier for Republican politicians to win Senate seats just based on the fact that every state, regardless of how big it is, regardless of how many people in it, get 2 senators. So my vote in California has like substantially less power than somebody's vote in like Iowa or Wisconsin or some shit. So yeah, it's hard. It can be hard, but that does not mean that it's impossible. And I'd like for you guys to remove that idea that it is impossible for us to get 67 senators from your brain. Because, yeah, it will be hard. It will be very hard. But it's not impossible. Like, if we all did the work of talking to people and canvassing and convincing people and meeting them where they are and persuading them and getting out the vote, you know, we have the highest voter participation that we've had in I don't know, maybe ever in this country was 65%. That means that there's a lot of votes out there that we could potentially get. Now, again, I'm not predicting that's going to happen, and it is unlikely that it will happen, but we can do it. You know, like it's definitely there in the realm of possibilities. If we just did the work and helped elect these candidates, then we could do it. Let's see here. Jackson says, do you think the U.S. will acquire Greenland? I don't. I think it's possible that Trump will do things that are either shady or illegal to try to get Greenland, and that is up to and including military action. And that should terrify and enrage everybody. But yeah, you know, I don't think that it's going to happen like because Greenland is going to be like, yeah, we like that idea. That's awesome. Over on YouTube, Tyro, good to see you again. I'm having a hard time trying to meet people in the middle. Do you have any tips? So for people that are trying to meet people in the middle, I would say number one, there's an excellent book about this called The Persuaders. Everybody should read that book. It's excellent. It's inspiring. But also, you know, meeting people in the middle, I don't think it's necessary to meet people in the middle. I think it's necessary to meet people where they are. So you hear somebody say, like, I'm tired of these immigrants taking everybody's job. And you say, I completely agree that it is frustrating when somebody who is less qualified gets a job than you. Or when you don't get a job and you are being told that it is because of an immigrant. Like, I completely understand why that is the case. Now, I don't know if you have this information. This is information that I have seen time and time again, that the reason why people lose jobs is not because of immigrants, and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Like, it's hard work and it takes a lot of time, you know, like if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. But, you know, it's a struggle, and sometimes it takes a lot of time. You know, when I was canvassing, I was doing get out the vote canvassing. So we were being told don't spend more than like 3 minutes at every door. But people that do this work of persuading and convincing, they're told like try not to leave the door for 20 minutes and, you know, and then go back and see that person again, you know, like that's the work, guys. Anyways, all right, what else we got going on here? Alrighty, back into TikTok comments. Sam Garcia says, how do you feel about Tennessee passing a bill committee that allows schools to deny immigrants? I haven't read into that, Sam Garcia, so I don't necessarily want to opine on it at length. I will say that it kind of tracks for me where Republicans like to use immigrants as a, you know, as a political football where they can convince people that they are working for their constituents by just beating up, metaphorically, an immigrant, even though at the same time they're shutting down their government services and literally taking money out of their pockets and giving it to billionaires. So yeah, that tracks for me, unfortunately. It's a bummer, but it tracks for me. User Old Bunch of Numbers says, I come from New Mexico, a Democrat state, and leaders are felling us. I don't know anything about local New Mexico politics, but I can guarantee you that a Republican administration would be worse. And the reason why I can guarantee that is because I've looked at the data, and people in red states have worse like outcomes than people in blue states. Chappie Cheese says, are there non-MAGA Republicans in the government? The only two that I know about right now are Murkowski and Collins. The guy who's running the Senate right now, Senate Majority Leader, I think his name is Tom Tillis or Thune or something like that. People talk about him as being relatively moderate, but I have not seen any of that. I haven't seen him standing up to any of Trump's nominees or, you know, anything like that. The fact that he voted for Trump's nominees and Mitch McConnell didn't, just goes to show you like how massive these pieces of shits are in the Republican Senate. Dominic says, Jared, who did you vote for? Democrats up and down the ballot. Jerry Atlanta, Georgia says, is there anything Trump can do for you to give him credit? So the answer is no, Jerry Atlanta. If Trump trips and falls and accidentally does something good, I'm not going to give him any credit. Furthermore, the dude takes credit from things that he never fucking did, and he skirts blame for the things that he did do. So why should I give him credit for something that he maybe accidentally did correctly when he's fucking doing a mountain of bullshit 24/7, saying he's a god, saying he's the most perfect individual who's ever lived, never made a mistake, never ever, done anything wrong, is the greatest president that's ever lived. His economy is the greatest economy of all time. Everybody's an idiot except for him. Why would I then go out of my way to sift through the pile of fucking diarrhea that is everything he's ever done in his life for the one piece of thing that he maybe accidentally did correctly? No. Miss me with that shit. That's not being bipartisan. That's not being unbiased. That is doing work to try to make Trump seem like a not piece of shit. And I'm not here for that. I think that we give the Republican Party way too much credit already. Republicans never get any fucking blame for the things that they do. They let 9/11 happen, and we still think of them as the party of national security. They cut benefits for veterans, and yet we still call them the party that cares about the military. They've crashed the economy more times than Democrats have, and yet we still think of them as the fiscally responsible party. They balloon the deficit more than Democrats do, and yet we think of them as the more fiscally responsible party. So yeah, I am not here to try to appear as though I am so unbiased that I'm going to go through all of the terrible things Republicans have done and hold up this one tiny fragment of a thing to be like, I guess this was okay, I'm not there for this, guys. I am not here for this. Democrats never get any credit. Republicans never get any blame. I am not going to be part of that problem anymore. I am here to give Democrats credit and give Republicans blame where it is merited. All right. Tillis, Tom Tillis. Thank you, Patrick. I appreciate you helping remember that guy's name. Let's see here. Shaw the Pooper says, how do you feel about the chokehold the Israeli government has over all of our politicians? They don't have a chokehold over all of our politicians. It is just money and influence that they have. And so I don't like it. I don't think that foreign nations or money should have that much influence over our politicians. And if you don't care for that, then you should vote for Democrats, because they are the only party that is serious about trying to, remove some of the influence that AIPAC has over our politicians. SH tree emoji says, who should I vote for in 2028? The same people that you should vote for in 2025 and 2026, Democrats. B. King says, shut up and read the comments. I am. Benjamin Timothy Jen says, are there enough Dems in the Senate to vote out Chuck Schumer, minority leader? Yes. You don't need more, you don't need like a certain number of senators to vote out Chuck Schumer. You just need people to vote against Chuck Schumer. I don't know if there are votes against Chuck Schumer. He's pretty popular amongst like the establishment. And most of the Senate is, like old heads. But yeah, people can be convinced, of course. I know I'm much more of a progressive, so I am all for voting out the old guard and voting in the new guard. But I'm not the majority necessarily in this. Let's see here. Jerry Atlanta, Georgia says, has there ever been a bad Democratic president? Yeah, of course there has. No Violence says, so green card holders are in risk now, so it comes on. Green card, everybody's at risk right now. Everybody's at risk. It's that fucking poem. First they came for the socialists and I said nothing because I wasn't a socialist. Then they came for the communists and I said nothing because I wasn't a communist. Then they came for the Jews and I said nothing because I wasn't Jewish. And then they came for me and there was no one left to speak for me. It's that poem, guys. We're seeing it in real fucking life. So we got to be there for each other. We got to be upset when a fucking green card holder gets fucking disappeared for saying something that the administration didn't like. We all gotta be upset when a fucking legal student gets fucking abducted and disappeared. We should all be upset that brown people are just getting shipped off to a fucking supermax concentration camp in El Salvador with zero trial, zero evidence, zero fucking accountability, zero fucking oversight, because there but for the grace of God go I. That could be us. And if you've ever said anything positive about Democrats or negative about Republicans or negative about Trump or negative about any of Trump's friends or positive about a news organization like the New York Times or MSNBC or something, and they find that shit on your social media, that could just as easily be you. That could just as easily be you. What Republicans want, what Donald Trump wants, what Elon Musk wants, is the kind of system that they have in Russia here, where the president has total rule over everything. He gets half of every business, just goes directly into his pocket. He can just fucking murder people and have, dissidents thrown in jail and then die in a fucking Siberian concentration camp and shit like that. That's their goal. That's the end goal. So we should all be fucking upset about that, you know? Cat Blue says, those are crimes against humanity by Trump. Completely agree with that. It's not his first time. Jerry Atlanta, Georgia says, do you think J.D. Vance will be a good Republican president if he wins the next election? I don't. I don't like J.D. Vance. He is a fucking liar. He's an opportunist. He was out there telling the truth about Donald Trump being Hitlery, and then he realized that it was better for his political career to be a Trump sycophant instead. So then he just started talking about how great Trump is. He's a liar. He's a con man. And he's the same as all these fucking ding-dongs. That's number one. Number two is, as long as Trump is alive, no other Republican is running for president. That's just the case. It is his desire, it is his wish to die in office and to be declared president for life and be able to hand the presidency down to his children like a king does to a prince. And so, yeah, J.D. Vance has to wait until Donald Trump kicks it before he can even think about running for president. Let's see here. Anon says, how much did Chuck Schumer pay you to say all of this? LOL. I don't get any money from any Democrats, any elected Democrats. Maybe I get, gifts or, Patreon members of people who are registered Democrats, but there's no, DNC figure who is putting money in my pocket. Kessler Harris says, you're literally only reading Dem comments out loud. Why can't you admit they were already convicted? They weren't already convicted, Kessler. Also, I am reading everybody's comments that I see. So yeah, you're full of it, Kessler. Check B. Cheese says, why do modern conservatives seem to love Reagan and before Trump see Reagan as the standard? So I think what they liked about Reagan was that he did everything that the billionaire class wanted him to do. He completely transformed the idea of government, like how we think about the parties, how we think about business and shit like that. And he was extremely popular, even though he did things that the modern Republican Party does not like. And even though he did things that drastically hurt everybody in this country. Republicans love what Reagan did and love how the world viewed Ronald Reagan. How insanely popular he was, even as he was fucking shitting on everybody's faces. Let's see here. Crosby Rush says, are you far left or moderate left? I would say I'm far left. Jake Carey says, thank you for helping Trump win the election. I didn't. I actually worked really hard to make it so that he wouldn't win the election. Joy Rosaspina says, who do you want to run in 2028? I don't whisk cash for 2028. I'm trying to keep people focused on the special elections that are happening this April, which is fucking, what day is that? That's this Tuesday, guys. There's special elections this Tuesday, one in Wisconsin, two in Florida, one in New York, and we got to fucking do the work to elect better people for those positions. Elon Musk is trying to buy that state Supreme Court seat in Wisconsin. Tell him fuck you by electing the other person. That's number one. Number two is there's also got midterms in 2026. We got to focus on fucking running the House in the midterms in 2026. Let's fucking get every House seat and Senate seat. Let's fucking, that there's a line in, I forget what TV show it was, but it's like, if you want to punch somebody in the face, aim for the back of the head. Let's go for a fucking 100 Senate seats and 400 plus House seats, We won't get there, but we'll get close, guys. Let's fucking do the work, Let's see here. Park says, and that exact reason is why you are gonna lose. Okay, Park, if you say so. Thank you, Rita. You're doing the Lord's work. Joe Rue says, what is the real reason they want to cut government spending so much? So it's I'll tell you the answer, Joe Rue, but it's gonna be another long one. I better take my sweater off here. Ugh. I'm gonna get real heated going into this one. So, the Republican Party and the billionaire class are working together to enslave us all and destroy the government. Because when people are desperate, then they do not have the time or energy or money to revolt or protest or join political movements or educate themselves. They just have to get 3 jobs and work 80 hours a week and just, struggle to survive like a fucking Middle Ages serf, like a medieval serf. So yeah, why do they want to dismantle the government? Because these are the government works to protect the people against the powerful, against the billionaire class. And because Republicans and billionaires are working together, they want to make it so that people don't have mechanisms to protect themselves against the 1%, you know? The IRS is going after billionaire tax cheats, so they're trying to dismantle the IRS so that billionaires don't have to pay their taxes and they can just keep all the money that they have. They are going after the EPA because they want companies to be able to poison our air and our water and make sure that our food is less safe and our medications are more expensive and less safe, because that puts more money in the pockets of their billionaire buddies. But also it makes our lives harder when, you know, we eat food that has E. coli. Now we're on the bench for like a month when that happens. And, you know, when you living in a town that has really bad air pollution and water pollution, then you get chronic illnesses, the ones that RFK is supposed to be so fucking pissed off about. And and then we become more desperate, and then we become less able to fight when we all have fucking asthma and fucking microplastics poking holes into our kidneys and livers and shit like that. Peggy Brusenhauser Steiner Rose says, are they going after insider trading in Congress? The Republican Party is not going to. There are a lot of bills that have been started by both Republicans and Democrats. The bill that has made it farthest was the Democrat bill. They got 24 Democrats to sign on to that. But right now, it's still completely up in the air. Like, people keep on putting bills forward, but then not getting enough support, and nothing's getting out of committee and shit like that. If that's something you care about, then you should 100% vote for Democrats, because Democrats, again, are the only party that is serious about getting the money out of politics. Let's see here. Chase says his evidence. Trust me, bro. No, my evidence is look around. Open your fucking eyes. Read the newspaper. Let's see here. James Wright says, who should the Democratic Party prop up as the next pseudo-president? James Wright, it seems like you are asking this question as though the Democratic Party chooses the nominees, and they don't. Kamala Harris was an exception. Every other nominee is chosen by the people in the primaries. Joe Rue says, I heard it was because Trump's tax cuts from his previous term is expiring and he wants to expand it. That is another reason why. He wants to expand it so that rich people can keep more of their money and starve government agencies of tax dollars that they need to operate. So yeah, you know, it's a fucking nightmare. They all fucking suck. No one should ever vote for them. Stefan Edmondson says, you still pay more in taxes, but they're making all these cuts. Damn fishy. Yeah, isn't that awfully suspicious? That we're getting less and paying more? Doesn't that fucking suck? All right, scrolling down to the bottom. Jack says, yeah, where's the source, buddy? Tell me the thing that you think I'm making up, and I will give you the source, Jack. Darkin says, I blame the political divide on Reagan ending the fairness doctrine. Yeah, I mean, that is a totally valid thing to happen. I think that's part of what happened. I think the billionaire class got together and decided they were going to do this. I'm reading this book right now called Dark Money about the influence of money in politics and how when Obama got elected, all these billionaires got together and were like, we have to stop the Democrats from ever getting any kind of power whatsoever, and started doing a lot of insidious, sneaky shit that nobody has heard about. So there you go. Winter Rose says, why are his ratings so high? I don't know whose ratings you think are high. Let's see here. Jack says, don't care, provide sources. Again, you haven't told me what you think I've said wrong. You can't tell me where's my source when I've said 1,000 things. Let's see here. Peggy Brosenhauser Steiner Rose says, does that billionaire class include Gates and Zuck? Yes, it does. You know, I believe Gates helps support Democratic politicians. Zuckerberg helps Republican politicians. Mello says, I think Fox News did irreparable harm to our country. I completely agree with that. Joseph Ibarra says, it's opening day and you're on TikTok talking about politics. Yeah, I don't follow sports, so I don't really give a shit. Muds King, thank you very much. Magaverse says, not impeaching or prosecuting Nixon is my impetus. Yeah, they 100% should have. That is accurate. Robert Jordan says, wait, so you are for more government to tell you how to live your life. Robert Jordan, let's see here. The Democratic Party is not trying to tell you how to live your life. It's the Republican Party that is trying to tell you how to live your life. If you want to be in a same-sex relationship, the Republican Party says no. If you are a man and you want to be a woman, the Republican Party says no. If you want to read a book that has a gay character in it, the Republican Party says no. If you are a woman and your life is being threatened by an unviable pregnancy, and so you want to have an abortion to save your fucking life, the Republican Party says no. You should just fucking die. So there you go. Big government, small government. I just care about taking care of people. BPC says, nurse here. My veteran patients in Missouri are suffering and finally mad about it. I'm glad that they're mad, MC, but it makes me furious that our veterans are suffering because of the incompetency and cruelty of the Republican Party. Let's see here. You, sir, need more coffee. Religion in schools. Yeah, there's another way that the Republican Party is trying to tell you how to live your life. You got to be a Christian. Anybody who's not a Christian, you don't get to have shit. Sorry, buddy. Let's see here. Holy Marie Soul Coaching says the Democrats tried to force vaccines and lockdowns. Who voted for Fauci? Fauci was the process by which Fauci came to power was completely normal. I actually asked a friend of mine about this because I recognized that he was not, he was not Senate confirmed, but the person who appointed him was Senate confirmed. So there you go. Also, Democrats tried to force vaccines and lockdowns. That is inaccurate. So sorry, Holly Marie. You've been lied to, or you are a liar yourself. Let's see here. Benny says, Signalgate is so funny. LMAO. I mean, it's funny that they're such idiots, but it is not funny that they're putting all of us at physical risk and harm. Stefan Edmondson says, do I get back the money I have paid into Social Security or do I just lose it? You just lose it because that money is going into billionaires' pockets. That's the way the Republican Party works. Sorry. Benny says, do you think Donald Trump and his band of thieves will be held accountable for it? If we vote for Democrats, they will. If we don't, they won't. Because the Republican Party and the extremely right-wing Supreme Court are not incentivized to hold Donald Trump or any of his fucking cronies accountable whatsoever. So if you want accountability, you have to vote for the only kind of politicians who are willing to hold people accountable, regardless of if they are Republicans or Democrats. And if you don't think that Democrats hold other Democrats accountable, Al Franken would like a word. Senator Menendez would like a word. TikTok says, you guys wanted forced vax. Don't forget that. That is not true at all. CB Soskeski says, why do you think Nancy Pelosi is so good at trading? Because she uses insider information. But I think it's hilarious that you are calling out Nancy Pelosi when every fucking Republican does it. And it is only Democrats that are saying, hey, maybe we should change this system. Will Poskett says, I think voting won't happen. Trump is rolling democracy back. Well, and then we should fucking raise hell because we deserve the right to vote. We deserve our votes to be counted. And you know, if they try to take that away from us, I think we need to fucking hit the streets, man, like fucking crazy. British John Comedy says, what would Carlin's take be in this? Sincerely, his take would be fuck Joe Rogan. That is my 100% sincere belief about what Joe Rogan, about what Carlin's attitude would be right now. What was the book you just said everybody should read that it's inspiring? It's called The Persuaders. I can never remember how to pronounce the dude's last name who wrote that book. His first name is Anand, Anand. He wrote another book called Winners Take All about how billionaire philanthropy is bullshit. And his latest book is called The Persuaders. I highly recommend The Persuaders. Everybody should check it out. Holly Marie Soul Coaching says, also, Trump gave abortion rights back to the states. Yeah, he sure did, Holly. And what are Republicans doing? They're killing women. So, Holly, I sure hope you never get pregnant and then have a complication that means you need to get an abortion to save your fucking life, and then the doctors won't save your fucking life because they're worried about being legally liable for saving your fucking life, and then you're being told to go bleed out in the parking lot, and hopefully things will get better, and you'll not, have to fucking die in the parking lot. But a number of women have already died because of this. At least 4, probably more than that now, Holly. So, yeah, you have the freedom to die of a preventable pregnancy complication. So there's your freedom that you wanted so badly. Let's see here. Holly Marie says, no, they're not doing that. I mean, they literally are, Holly, and you are not here in good faith. So you're out of here. All right. Gore Flynn, 21, says, you think it's fine unaliving people and destroying billions of dollars of things as protesting. I never said that, Gore Flynn. Let's see here. Nick said abortion saved my life. Well, I think that's great. You, sir, need more coffee, says the hypocrisy from the right with Pete Hegseth, and they all lied under oath. They should be held accountable. Completely agree with that. You should vote for Democrats because, again, those are the only, that is the only party that gives a shit about accountability. Gore Flynn, 21. I already answered that one. Let's see here. Let's see here. You, sir, need more coffee, says I'm a liberal. Yeah, no, I hope I didn't seem like I was throwing you shade. You, sir, need coffee. And Cozy Knight says Holly wears road-colored glasses. Yeah, well, she's not here anymore, so. Gore Flynn, 21, says, you said to wreak havoc if you disagree with Republicans. Yeah, I did not. That does not mean violence. You know, if you think that what I said meant violence, what do you think about all the shit that Donald Trump says? Where he says, beat the shit out of reporters, I'll pay your bail. Beat the shit out of protesters, I'll pay your bail. And he says, I miss the days when cops could just beat the shit out of people. What do you think about that? What do you think about all the inciting of violence that Donald Trump is doing? If you think me saying raising hell means murdering people and destroying property, what do you think about the things that Trump said that made people fucking attack the Capitol? They killed people. They destroyed property. Did you have a problem with that? Is that something that you had an issue with? Let's see here. Alexander Stevens' cornerstone speech. I do not know anything about that. Fran says the Democrats were taking us into bankruptcy. If you like living off federal funding, it's going to dry. That is not true at all, Fran. Gore Flynn, 21, says, what do you disagree with Doge? So Doge says that they are cutting government waste and fraud. That is not what they are doing. The things they are reporting that they have found are lies. They have been debunked time and time again. What they are actually doing is, number one, shutting down agencies that are currently investigating Elon Musk. So the Consumer Financial Protection Board, USAID, all had open investigations into Elon Musk and his businesses. So Elon Musk was trying to shut them down. What he's also doing is trying to destroy the government because the government helps the 99% protect themselves against the top 1%. The government is accountable to the people in the form of elections. These companies, we don't get to choose who the CEO of Facebook is. We don't get to choose who runs Coca-Cola. So we don't get to choose. That is not a way that we get to have control over our lives. The government is our protection against the billionaire class. And they don't like that. So they're trying to shut down the government so that we are all ruled by a class of immortal billionaires and we all get to be fucking serfs like in medieval times, just living off of fucking dirt and poop, you know, and well, meanwhile, they're fucking eating caviar and lobster and drinking champagne on their fucking golden yachts. They are fucking turning the screws on us, making our lives worse every fucking day, you know, fucking increasing the cost of goods. So yeah, I forget why I started this rant, but, you know, there you go. Ciara, that's why I don't like Doge. That's why I don't like Doge, because that's what they're doing. Ciara says, how do you feel about the eradication of trans members' service in the military? I think if somebody wants to serve our country in the military, that they should be able to. I think it's fucking a slap in the face to the people that have served our country that they are trying to discriminate against them. Let's see here. Haley Gullickson says, could we ever have these people held accountable? Signal, Social Security, etc., or are we too far gone? We 100% can hold them accountable. But here's the problem, Haley, is that we have to do the work. I know it sucks. I don't want to do the work either. I just want to watch movies with my wife. Like, that's it. I just want to sit on the couch. But here we are. I was working my ass off for the last 8 years trying to make sure that we were not in this position. Nobody listened to me, though, so now here we are. The way that we get out of this is we got to do the work. And what's the work? Well, this is the perfect time for me to do that speech. The work is stuff. You can join a group like Indivisible that is putting pressure on our elected leaders. You can join a group like Run for Something that is recruiting young progressives to run for office. You can join a group like Vote Save America that is getting out the vote and finding the elections that are most winnable and putting resources into that. You can talk to people in real life, your friends, your family, your neighbors, your coworkers. Make sure that they're not getting their information off of social media. Make sure that you are correcting any weird propaganda narratives that they have kicking around in their house. A very good, smart friend of mine told me the other day that the Democrats had a bunch of opportunities to codify Roe versus Wade, and they just chose not to. That is a lie. That is not true at all, and yet this friend of mine bought that narrative. Not his fault. We are all sus. We are all, fucking drinking in this, torrent of misinformation and propaganda that is social media. You know, we know that Russia created 2 fake Facebook groups that materialized into very real people getting into a very real fight in real life. So we know that Russia is manipulating our social media to make us fight amongst themselves. Do we think that that stopped in 2016? It hasn't. So all of us are getting all this fucking, junk being fucking fire hosed into our eyeballs. We have to do the work of correcting those narratives. We have to do the work of getting better politicians elected. We have to do the work of putting pressure on our elected representatives to do their fucking jobs. And I'm talking about Republicans holding Donald Trump accountable. That's it. We have to do the work. Because as much as the Democratic Party would love to save us, they don't have any political power right now, and they do not have the resources available to them that the Republican Party does. Because the Republican Party is working with almost every billionaire and adversarial nations like Russia. You know, Putin and Elon Musk, all of their money together, there is no way we can fight that. The only advantage that we have is numbers of people. And if we're willing to do the work, then we can fucking run the table in the midterms, and we can get our fucking presidency back. We can get our whole fucking government back if we do the work. The Ilmoth says, are you a communist by chance? I'm not a communist. I'm not a socialist. I'm not a capitalist. I think that all of these systems can work together. Every country that has called themselves capitalist or communist or socialist has been, in essence, a combination of all 3 of those systems. And I just think you need to kind of rebalance the scales. Like, I think we need more communism and socialism right now. We have too much capitalism. It's ruining everything. Let's see here. Alex, 25-year combat veteran against Trump. Thank you so much for your service. Julian Torres says Republicans are exempt from accountability for anything in America. Completely agree with that. Let's see here. Alex says, remember when Trump stole millions from his own children's cancer charity? Yeah, the list of things that Trump has done that are shitty and terrible are so many that we just forget them, Unbelievable. Benny, what is your opinion on voter turnout and how the lack there affects election results in the long term? The Republic says, remember me? I guess I do. I don't know who you are. Anyways, Benny. So that I used to have a better answer to that question, but we just got a bunch of data about the previous election that kind of throws some of these ideas away. The way that it used to work was that when there was higher voter turnout, Democrats did better than Republicans. But now, because the Republican Party is kind of activating non-active political people who don't digest the news, basically, that people who did not vote might as well have been voting for Trump. There are some statisticians who have said that if more people voted, Trump would have won by even more in 2024. Yeah. But I still have this, optimistic belief that the closer that we get to 100% voter turnout, the better our country will be. And again, I don't have any evidence to support that anymore because, again, all this, all what the statisticians and the datisticians have told us is that is not the case in 2024. I still believe it. And so I think that we should be doing everything that we can to increase voter participation because at the very least, we get more people involved and we get more people sort of like thinking, all right, I just cast my vote for somebody. I just walked down to the polling booth and cast my vote for somebody. And then they see when that person does things that they don't like. And then they can start thinking like, oh shit, there is a direct causal link between my vote and something that happened in my real life. And I think getting people to recognize that will activate more people politically. And that I think will be better for the country in general. Mr. J says, can we put some blame on these podcast bros and known paid influencers? Absolutely. 100%. If you're one of these fucking Joe Rogan ding-dongs that's saying like, I'm not left, I'm not right, I'm just here asking questions. I think everyone's got a perfectly valid point of view. And then you go out there and say that you're endorsing Donald Trump like you're 100% full of shit. Fucking read a book, Joe Rogan. God damn, man. These fucking hypocrites. I'm sorry, but I saw this video the other day about I forget the dude's name. He's a really popular creator. He's a redhead. He screams and yells about progressive shit. And he had a video where he was talking to his wife or his girlfriend or something. And his wife or girlfriend said, like, I'm pissed at Joe Rogan because these guys are supposed to be, like, comedians who are supposed to be talking truth to power. And all they're doing is fucking bending the knee to the God King Donald Trump. they're also supposed to give a shit about the fucking First Amendment. And meanwhile, we have the most anti-First Amendment administration in modern history, and these guys aren't fucking saying shit. They're sitting down Elon Musk and being like, why are they calling you a Nazi? That's so fucking weird that they're calling you a Nazi. I mean, yeah, you did a fucking Zig Heil twice on Inauguration Day, but that doesn't mean you're a Nazi, you know? So yeah, these guys are completely fucking full of shit. All these podcast bros who are just, fucking the political equivalent of your loser older brother who just gets high on the couch every day and just talks about conspiracy theories all fucking day long. Like, yeah, sus as hell. When you have that much money, you are sus as hell. I no longer fucking have any faith that you're doing anything except fucking protecting your own tax cuts and your own deregulation. That's why these fuckers all moved to Texas, so they can all just not be taxed any money whatsoever and just live high on the hog, because that's what they fucking work so hard for, just to fucking get up to the highest rung of the ladder and pull it up behind them. Yeah, fucking hell, man. They're fucking traitors. I'm sorry, but I get so fucking heated thinking about this because I'm a comic. And comedians for the last, 2 decades have had our fucking buttholes licked up and down for being the modern day philosophers, for being the truth tellers, for being the people who are standing up to tyranny. And yet, the top of the fucking comedian ladder is just genuflecting, is just fucking kissing the ring. It makes me fucking sick, and as somebody who was a fan of Carlin growing up, he would be fucking pissing in your face right now if he knew what you were doing. Fucking traitors. Anyways, Hydros Inc. says, where do you get your political news? I try to get it from a variety of sources. So I listen to and I read progressive news sources, but I also check out legacy news sources, centrist news sources, and foreign news sources. Try to balance any bias that I might be ingesting by doing that. You can also check out a news aggregator, like the Reddit news feed or Ground News. Those are all real good ways of getting information from a bunch of different sources. You, sir, need more coffee. Says, I'm 3 times female combat veteran. The government is stabbing us in the back with all these cuts. 6 months wait to see a doctor in Texas. Yes, you, sir, need more coffee. That fucking pisses me off so much, and I'm so sorry that you guys are going through this. That is fucking infuriating, man. Max says, what do you think about the U.S. moving Spirit bombers in range of Yemen and Iran? That's a little outside of my area of expertise. Foreign affairs is where I have the most holes in my knowledge, so I can't speak on that, Max. Sorry, but thank you for your question. Pearlmania 500. Yes, that's the Red Guys channel that I was just talking about. Yeah, look for the video that he put out. That's his face, but his wife or girlfriend is talking in the background. She says it way more eloquently than me. I'm just fucking pissed off about it. As a fellow stand-up, I'm like, how fucking dare you guys? Anna says, do you expect any consequences for those involved in the Houthi group chat? I talked about this a little already. I'll give you the short version is... Trump does not care about any of these people keeping their jobs. He will, without blinking an eye, throw any and all of them under a bus, including his own fucking mother. He does not give a shit. But I think he wants to see if he can get away with this. I think he wants to see how much his government can fuck up and play by their own rules without him having to fire anybody. So that's why he's going out there and he's still lying about how it didn't happen. And even if it did happen, it's not that big a deal. And even if it was that big a deal, it's a big deal on the good side and not the bad side. And even if it is a big deal on the bad side, it's not even his fault. It's the fault of Democrats and Joe Biden for setting him up to fail in this way. But yeah, if we keep on putting pressure on him and his administration for there to be consequences, there will be consequences. There'll be less than there should be because there is it is a difficult return on investment where our efforts equal political outcomes. But it definitely exists. And, I think that we should all look to see who and how many people are forced to resign because of this. It will give us a window into how bulletproof Donald Trump thinks he is right now. Estella says, emailed my rep about Signalgate demanding appropriate consequences. I'm so happy to hear that, Estella. Non-Hero says, why do Republicans keep running over protesters in vehicles? I believe that the elected Republicans and Republican talking heads like Ben Shapiro and Charlie Kirk have made it clear to the Republican voting base that they think that violence is okay. that they think that it is okay for you to drive over a Democrat with your car or riot in the Capitol and beat police officers within an inch of their fucking lives. That is the message that the Republican base has received from the people on high. And so, yeah, Donald Trump may pay some lip service to we're going to do it peacefully, but his supporters know what he means. He does all of those caveats with a fucking wink and a nod to let them know, like, I'm down with your violence. And, these fucking ding-dongs like Dan Bongino and Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro, they're all the same. They're all doing the same thing. And, at the same time saying that it's the Democrats that are the violent ones. Look at these guys, lighting Tesla chargers on fire. Democrats aren't doing that. I got no fucking idea who's doing that. There's no Democratic representative who said that people should go do that. Everything that a Democrat has ever said about politics is always at the ballot box and being clear, like, we do not condone any kind of violence or destruction of property. And yet we still get colored that way because, again, misinformation and propaganda is responsible for the reason why people have the ideas that they have about the political parties. Nick says people on all sides hate Elon. Yeah, completely agree. But the Antifa, yeah, completely agree with that, Anna. AAA says, did you know that Trump is the dumbest person ever? I've heard that. W. Page, good to see you again. Did you already cover Stefanik's nom being pulled? Scared or bored? I haven't covered it. I read about it just before I started my live, and so I have not dug into any of the reasoning there. But I'm curious. I'm curious if this is Trump feeling like he has to give something to the centrist wing, or if Stefanik was going against him in some way, I have no fucking idea. All right, Non-Hero says, why does Florida have less than 5% of the normal amount of spring breakers? I think people don't want to go to fucking Florida. I think people hate Florida. Florida is a shitty state run by a bunch of fucking pieces of shit that have ruined their state. So, yeah. Doesn't surprise me one tick. Wingnut says, you have no political background or knowledge. That's not true. I have lots of political knowledge. Annie says, and political background. I mean, I've done a lot of work in politics, so I feel like that counts as background. They can't stand it because we protest peacefully and they don't. Completely agree with that. This person is just spamming the comments with long live Trump. All right, let's see here. Dozer Man says, you don't remember the Black Lives Matter riots. I do remember the Black Lives Matter protests. 99% of them were peaceful. And the ones that were violent, the FBI did an investigation into that and found that right-wing agitators were responsible for the damage or instigating the violence that caused the damage. So you can miss me with the BLM shit also, my man. Let's see here. Scott Clower says, I doubt Canadians are coming to Florida this year. That could also be part of that as well. Only thing... that's pretty funny. Let's see here. Dan Blackroyd. Excellent joke, Dan Blackroyd. Excellent joke. All right. Sidesh says, hello. Hi there. Hello back to you, Sidesh. It's the Rocketeer says, my wife and I hate Florida, which sucks because I miss Disney World, but they got to pay for their shittiness. Yeah, no arguments here, my man. Isley1 says, besides, I don't think any police officers died during a BLM riot. Completely agree with that. Also, no Democratic politicians were out there saying go riot for Black Lives Matter. Non-Hero says, asking if people are unemployed at protests are proof propaganda works on wage slaves. I think I know what you're saying there, Non-Hero, and I think I agree with that. Gino has looked up the book The Persuaders. That's Anon's serial, The Persuados. Let's see here. Jaxper says, Florida is getting into the child labor business since they drive out the immigrants. Yeah, shouldn't that be a fucking red flag that Republicans in 2 different states are trying to weaken child labor laws? Like, isn't that enough? Guys, there are so many things that the Republican Party does, that Trump does, that I'm just like, isn't that enough for you to realize that this person fucking sucks and only gives a shit about themselves and it's gonna ruin everything, Anyways, thank you everybody for being here today. Thank you for all the comments, for all the likes, for all the shares, for all the gifts and everything. I appreciate any support that you guys can give me, whether it is the free kind or the paid kind. But I mean, I know that we're all suffering through a cost of living crisis. So do not send me money if you cannot afford it, or even if you don't want to. Don't send me any money. I don't care. I would much rather you put food on the table than send me a couple of nickels. But I have a Patreon that you can join if you like. You can find it on my website, jarrettberenstein.com. I also have a store that you can buy things from on jarrettberenstein.com. You can send gifts on TikTok and Twitch and YouTube. Yeah, you know, if you can, you can. If you want to, you can, but you don't have to, of course. Let's see here. If there are any questions that I was not able to get to today, my DMs are open. You can also email me through my website, jarrettberenstein.com. My normal streaming schedule is Tuesday through Friday, starting around 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. I will often start early, and I will often add a Monday because, again, I just really like doing these. And yeah, just my heartfelt plea for everybody to do the work. Do the work, guys. Come on, let's all do the work together. That's how we get out of this fucking shit, you know? And if you don't know what the work is, email me because I'm not going to do that speech again. I already did it once today. Let's all do the fucking work, guys. If we all do the work, then nobody has to do a lot of work. I'm doing as much work as I can. So the only thing that I can do to affect change more is to recruit and convince and persuade. And so that's what I'm doing here, guys. So please join me in the fight. Join me in doing the work. Join me in doing stuff. Join groups like Indivisible, like Run for Something, like Vote Save America. Talk to people in real life. And just, yeah, you know, that's how we get out of this, guys. Let's all take care of each other. All right. Any final questions? Any final questions? TikToker says, hey, do you do guest requests? I do not. Non-Hero says, making 14-year-old kids working graveyard shift during the week really makes us great. Yeah, completely fucking agree with that, you know. Why is MAGA's obsession with people being employed or not? So this is part of the right-wing ethos. It is, Lauren says, marching on April 5th? Absolutely we are marching on April 5th. Let's see here. So yeah, why do people on the right are obsessed with people having jobs and being employed? So there is the stigma of a person being unemployed being somebody who's just like lazy or dumb or just like just hanging out on the couch all day, watching television, stuff like that. But there's something more insidious going on there as well, which is creating this idea that the only value that you have as a human being is creating value for a billionaire. Like, if you don't have a job where you are making money for a fucking Elon Musk or some shit, then you're worthless. Then you're garbage. That's why people who are like, freelancers or people that drive for Lyft or, gig workers or artists or actors are all looked down on by the right because they see people making a living that is either that's inconsistent or doesn't have benefits or is just not putting money into the hands of some fucking, billionaire. And they think, fuck you, man. Like, you're not allowed to do that. You got to work a shitty job just like me, yeah. That's the short version, All right, everybody. Thank you again for being here. Tell your friends how great my live streams are. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Have an excellent rest of your Thursday, everybody. Take care. Goodbye. Goodbye.